Alright folks, just a wee video about outlining for a story, particularly for something long form like a novel, for example. I've spoken about this before, but my feelings have evolved, and you should always be willing and indeed eager for your feelings about something to change based on new information and new experiences. I have recently released the third novel in my Kestrel EU-based techno thrillers series. It's called Jinx, and it's out now. Yes, Matt, we know you talk about it on social media every bloody day. I've got to promote my own stuff. I don't have a separate marketing department. Now, I approached that by doing what I have done before for all the previous books, and that's doing a full outline, which is a big hierarchical bulleted list. The outline alone for Jinx is over 5,000 words, which is more than 5% of the length of the novel itself, which is about 96,000 words, as I recall. That's a fairly comprehensive and detailed outline, and that's fantastic when you are actually doing the writing up to a point, but of course it's quite a burden at the beginning when you are eager, you're enthusiastic, you want to get started, but if you're doing it the way that I insisted that I would do it, with that full outline, you've got to spend a good couple of weeks or even more thrashing out that very detailed outline, and it can be a buzzkill and a delay and so on. Not that those are reasons not to do things, but there is a negative effect of a very comprehensive outline that comes later after the planning when you're actually writing, and that's that outlines should really be living documents. And you will find that they are whenever you're writing fiction based on an outline, because when you are writing, you are forever changing things from your previous plan. You're adding things, removing things, you're making modifications, you're realizing and discovering things about the story that you had not planned, and you'll find yourself deviating from your outlines when you do that. And it happens constantly. You won't get through a scene without either introducing something you hadn't planned or outright changing something. Those two are the most common forms of deviation for me. I don't often entirely remove things that I'd planned, but the changes are commonplace. And that's completely understandable because you simply can't know all of the details of a 100,000 odd word piece of fiction up front. So what I've come to realise as a result of writing Jinx is that I was outlining too much at the beginning by failing to take into account the thing that I did already know, which is that books change as you write them, certainly as you write that first draft. So what I previously would do is I would have an incredibly detailed outline. I would never use chapters. I don't think about chapters at all. I don't plan in chapters. I don't know what they're going to be. I don't know where they're going to fall. All I do is I write a scene after a scene after a scene. I do that for the entire book, full first draft, and then only when I've got a first draft, sometimes even only when I've revised that first draft, do I then say, well, that's going to be chapter 1 and that's going to be chapter 2. And then I call that process chapterization. And what that encourages me to do is write every scene as if it could be a chapter starter or a chapter finisher, to encourage a certain cadence, a certain punchiness, to make sure that each scene can carry not just itself, but potentially some of the stuff surrounding it. So I would never have chapters in my outlines, but I would have these incredibly detailed hierarchical, sometimes it'd be like 3, 4, 5 levels deep worth of stuff, and it gets burdensome. You end up with this incredibly complicated looking thing, and you need to write your way through it, tick, 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 and as you make changes, you need to account for all that and start shoving it about. So what I would always do is, when I was going to write a new scene, which I had of course already planned for, I would grab its part of the outline and sort of copy paste it into a text document and start writing at the top of it, deleting points as I covered them. And I knew that when I deleted the last piece of that scene's outline, that I had finished the scene according to the plan. But as I made changes, I'd be shuffling stuff about and so on. What I think now is that certainly I will not be doing that. All I'm going to do is a 2-level outline, whereby I will just literally have scene, the actual word scene, because I don't name my scenes. I think that's something you can maybe only do once you've finished writing them, and again it's too burdensome to do up front. So I will just have literally scene, that's the top level of outline, and then a single level for a few high level points, and then it's the next scene, and on we go. And as I write, these are going to naturally expand into more detail and the actual comprehensive scene itself, without being too strictured or constrained by a perhaps unrealistically detailed and concrete outline at the outset. I'm not necessarily saying that this is greater wisdom. I'm saying that I have reached a point in writing long form fiction. I've written 4 books, each of which are over 90,000 words at this point, and loads more than that in shorter stories. I've just reached a point personally where this is not really necessary for me and doesn't really serve me. This much better fits, this 2-level approach with where I want to be and what's going to offer me the most fluid writing experience, without feeling that either I'm being held up at the start by having to overplan, or that I'm having to do too much housekeeping, juggling that detailed plan as I go. I think this is more accessible when you're getting started with a project, and lets you probably retain a lot more of the enthusiasm, the eagerness to get going and get writing, without completely pantsing the whole thing with no plan at all, which just simply does not suit my personality. Maybe it will suit yours, that's absolutely fine, in which case this is all irrelevant, but this is my current thinking on how I at least will outline novels going forward.